Well, hello, good afternoon from the UK. Welcome to my American friends. There's plenty of you in at the moment. Lots to talk about. When isn't there at the moment? I think there will be a time there isn't. But for now, let's kind of get to it straight away. You know what my Sphere Saloon's all about? I'm supposed to be on my own as a time agent, but look, yeah, I know. I'll have to keep my. There might be spying for Bad Wolf or Disney Plus here. So let me just kind of set us up here. Fandom is full of talk about whether Russell T Davies is bringing Sutek the Destroyer back from his apparent demise at the end of the classic Tom Baker tale Pyramids of Mars. Yes, I'm dreading it too. Sutek was a dangerous, malevolent force. You could see how lethal and menacing he could be when possessing the Fourth Doctor and threatening to make him a plaything of Sutek, one of the most sinister, all-powerful evil villains the Doctor's ever faced. But I think we're missing a far greater enemy, one that is using the Doctor as his plaything. Yes, Russell T Davies himself, the destroyer of fandom, the destroyer of canon, the destroyer of what this program used to be. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about this afternoon is what he has said in this magazine today. I bought it today. Here it is. Look, just got it. Fresh for you. And it's interesting what he says in his interview about Doctor Who, about what's going on. So I want to share that with you. And for once, because I'm doing this live, we can actually talk to each other. So I'll talk to you all in the thread in a moment if you've got any questions. But yes, in this Radio Times, he gives an interview and he addresses the ratings and he addresses season 3. So let's get to it. So here we go. If you look up in the far corner, he's asked a question. He goes, no, no, to be honest, I'm very proud of season 1. You know, there might not be the ratings we'd love. I'll come back to that. They might not be the ratings we'd love. We always want higher, but they are building over the 28-day period. Oh, this is lovely, this. Episode 1, Space Babies, is already up to 5.6 million and counting. So it's getting there. Getting there. And actually, I was brought back to bring in a younger audience. That's been massively successful. So there's a few things to talk about here. A few things to talk about. The first thing, of course, is there might not be the ratings we'd love. And wouldn't you all agree that is the first time we have heard any official discussion, any official acknowledgement that what they have been doing has not hit the mark? But he swallows that pill with something else by saying that obviously they've hit the under 30s market. Now, I'm going to talk about this. We're going to look at this. Don't you worry. The first thing I would say, though, is Space Babies is doing all right, building over the 28-day period, up to 5.6 million. I tell you what, if you added all my streams together and we waited another few years, I might get more viewers as well. That's not the game, is it? Overnights might be stark. We know from Dot and Bubble, the worst ever ratings ever, 3.38. But to say that Space Babies is now up to 5.6 million, I mean, come on, do me a favour. That's not the game. If we wait for long enough, we might actually get something. Is that what he's really saying? But I think the key thing is that second line. You know, there might not be the ratings we'd love. So all those streams that myself and other people have been doing, and people are arguing with us and arguing with a lot of us on the thread saying, you know, you lot, you're all the not we's and all the rest of it. They're acknowledging that we're right. We're onto something. I'm not buying this Space Babies eventually will get 10 million. You know, Devil's Card will eventually get 10 million. Please give it a year or something. That's not the game, is it? It's supposed to be about TV, entertainment, bums on seats. It's not about eventually the same person will watch the same episode 7 or 8 times to bump up the figures. That is not it at all. This has been a failure. And then I'll talk about the second point about him bringing in a younger audience and whether that's been proven right or wrong. So before I go any further, I just want to say hello to you all, because that's not something I can do normally on Sense for you. So good to see Tardy Spider, Nigel Jones, Sadako24, Enigmatic Joker, MCTV, RTD's Delusion Little, if he thinks this is a massive success. Oh, I will show you the figures, don't you worry. And I'll show you where he might be slightly... anyway, I'll show you. Doug Sims, it's a great name. They actually speak sense here. Yeah, well, that's why I picked Sense for you all those years ago. It feels like Sense for you, Sensorites. Paradiso, happy Tuesday. Good to see you. The puppets are very quiet. They're in shock, really. I think they're spying on me. Sadako, they're spying on me. They're reporting back. MCTV, hey Brendan, I feel like giving up bothering. We've had so little of what feels like the Doctor's character. I can't see how the last 2 episodes get resolved here. It's all going to be a blast, as you know. It's all going to be big event TV. It might sound dramatic and all the rest of it. Whether it's the Doctor is by the by, because he still lands like a spaceship Enterprise shuttle and then says hi baby as soon as he gets out the doors. So yes, I agree with you. I don't think that's the Doctor at all. Let's have a look. Just checking on everybody because I want to be polite. Tardy Spider, they do know that it takes 3 or 4 episodes to match viewing figures for the fan favourite, The Web Planet. Yes. Anthony Parkinson, hello, good to see you. RTD basically telling Radio Times I was brought on to halve Chibnall's ratings. Yeah, you see, this is it. I love the media lovies. They all have a different way of looking at things. We are just the ones who are like the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes. The Emperor's got no clothes on. We just say it as it is, but they have to, well, we were aiming for a different market to you lot. What sort of TV producer says that? So Archibald Lazarus is asking, where is the younger audience? Yeah, I'm going to show you. Don't worry. Well, I'm not going to show you them because I think I could fit them in this room. Oh, there they are. Enigmatic Joker. I watched The Brain of Morbius again today. The last episode is especially interesting because of the incarnations of well, I know, don't even go there. Honestly, people have used that to prove something. They were used in The Timeless Children, weren't they? So, yes, I've caught up a little bit of where we are. So let me just kind of move on, because you know what I'm like with my Sphere Saloons. I've always got a debate and an argument to make. So just the last one there. I wondered why this Doctor seems so immature. Darth Davies wants younger people to watch, but the Doctor must be less cerebral, less mature, and less heroic. And I don't think it's talking to them. Anyway, so he thinks eventually they'll get there, but they are actually disappointed. So let me just kind of move you on to this slide here. So here's an example of Space Babies Night. And he said they have been massively successful. Yeah, remember what I just said? They have been massively successful with the younger audience. Now, for the first night, when, of course, we had the Eurovision Song Contest in Britain, so that normally pulls in an awful lot. And it is for the younger market as well. You got 1.27 million of the 16 to 34s were watching the Eurovision Song Contest. They eventually got about 7 million. So do the maths. Most people are older than 34 who are watching TV. Anyway, Doctor Who was in second place with 640,000 of this younger market that he thinks have been massively successful in. Now, let's have a look. Let's just take a look. Overall, if you look at Star Beast onwards, you can see how Space Babies Devil's Cord, I haven't got the up-to-date one regarding this lovely graphic, but you can see how streaming, which was meant to be the great thing for the youngsters, isn't happening. I mean, the streaming one, you can see the yellow, you can see the orange. The orange is when you use tablets, you use various instruments like that to watch, and the catch-up, the iPlayer catch-up is in yellow. It's not happening. This younger market is not happening. I have this from Samba TV. We have pitched our tent as Doctor Who with the Disney Plus, and you can see only 5% of Generation Z actually stream through and use Disney Plus. So when he says they've been a massive success, I'll come back to it and I'll show you more quotations from the Radio Times. But where? Are you really for that? Here's another example. So I'm not just picking on Space Babies. Look at Boom. Look at that. As soon as people tuned in, you had about 2 million. That's everybody in Britain. 2 million. No age figures breakdown. And then he lost 500,000, or should I be honest, about 600,000 by the end of the program. So there's a general drop-off with everybody who watches it because they're not being engaged. On top of that, the Generation Zers aren't people who sit and watch TV. That's proven. And then he says they've been a massive success. So what is he talking about? Okay, let's have a look. So he says he was brought into Doctor Who this time specifically to grab the under 30s. He said they just don't watch television anymore. But those figures are astronomical for Doctor Who. It's their top program in that bracket. Right, so let's just pull back there. He's making this sound like an amazing success. So let's just reel back in a moment before I look at the thread again. He's actually saying that although we know the figures overall are falling, overall, Dot and Bubble got the worst ever below Legend of the Sea Devils. In one bracket of a very small market who watches TV, he's saying that they are number one. BBC are number one with the under 30s, whoever they are. But we're talking about the hundreds of thousands. That's all we're talking about. So he says these figures are astronomical. I think he's being a bit exaggerated there. It's their top program. I never thought it was possible, to be honest. But according to the people who juggle the numbers, all targets have been reached and exceeded. The BBC are running around like mad things. Right, so hold on a minute. You're all depressed in the thread. I'm depressed. I'm thinking Doctor Who's looking rough here. But no, don't you worry. The under 30s, out of that whole component of the under 30s, the small group who watches TV sees Doctor Who as the number one program. Are you going to build all your success on that? Is that really what you're saying, RTD? Really? So you can see that in this magazine article, number one, the ratings aren't what we expected. Yeah, I think he's in on the same page as us, and we've got graphs to prove it. Streams and streams of people talking about it. But we are winners with the 16 to 34s. I've shown you some of the figures. We're talking about hundreds of thousands. That's it. Really? Are you really saying this is the great success? So please, it's not impressing me at all. So let me just take you further on. So if it's such a success, has Disney Plus bitten your hand off and secured season 3? And he says here, and I know it's a badly photocopied piece from me, I'm working on the 4th script now for season 3. It's not actually commissioned. That's still up in the air. But that's the same for every TV program. I shouldn't say we're confident because that's asking for a fall. But we're very confident, to be honest. Right. There you go. He thinks we're going to get season 3. Now, he might be right. Maybe nowadays the media lovies are happy with a smaller market than any of us would be happy with at all. I mean, this is a very expensive program, isn't it? A very expensive program to make. And they're very happy with figures like that, is, I assume, what we're saying. Right. Back to the margin. I say margin, don't I? Back to the thread. See if anyone's got any questions, because I've got loads of slides, loads of evidence. You know that if I was just on my own here, I'd get through this in 20 minutes and I would talk through that and all the rest of it. Paul Richards, good to see you. Having the Doctor twerking in a sexual way to a Carly song isn't the Doctor. The trouble is, we've got the other people who watch Doctor who think it's now their show and we need to just get out the house and slam the door behind us and never come back to fandom. They're saying, yeah, but this has happened before. We've even had, Toxic, Britney Spears. We've had Rasputin, Boney M with Power of the Doctor. And they'll list all, and I know it's happened, but it's all under RTD where this has happened and since. It's not a Doctor Who I recognise. They've got to be honest and say, we have changed the show, okay? We have changed the show. Doug, like I mentioned before, I feel very out of step. Many fans feel like Rogue was a great episode. I don't get it. Oh, I've been getting people criticising even my thumbnails. Do you want me to tell you something? Just before I started the saloon here, I mean, I was kind of distracted because on Twitter, I was told on X, one of my adverts, you'll have seen it, we know with the coffin, saying 1963 to 2024, RIP Doctor Who. And it was a question, you know me, I'm an English teacher, I put a question above, did Rogue kill off Doctor Who? Question mark. Coffin, it's a metaphor. And they've taken it down. They've taken it down because they said, and I'm thinking, what guideline have I broken? Anyway, do you know what guideline I've broken? It said, be kind. So I wasn't being kind to a program. It's not even a sentient being. So basically, Doctor Who, the thing, I've been unkind to it by putting a coffin with a date on and a question, not an answer. You know, I'll leave the answers to you. So yes, Doug, I don't understand this generation either, because if they think I'm being unkind by using a metaphor, we have lost the plot. We really do. Let's have a look. She 33. I wondered why this doctor seems so immature. Darth Davies wants younger people to watch, but the doctor must be less. Oh, sorry, I had you on earlier, didn't I? I apologize, but I agree with you still. Liberal Paradiso. It's possible Davies believes this new Doctor Who is ahead of its time. I'm saying nothing. And a future audience will appreciate it when they find it. I know. I mean, oh yeah, I'm sure there's going to be an audience for Doctor Who that hasn't been born yet. I mean, do we wait that long? As soon as people come out the room, they'll line them up in their incubators and put Doctor Who on, and Barb will be there, and Nielsen, and they'll be going, "Did you enjoy it? Or did you enjoy your Rusk?" And they'll be, I mean, yeah, how far do we go on this one? You watching me now is one view. If you go back and watch me for some crazy reason, it's still one view. Why come these lot cheat all the time? I don't know. Yeah, Paul Richards, the Doctor is an eternal character and should be dragged down to a teenager's level. I know. I think I said on one of our first live stream on Sunday, which we'll do again. We'll do a midday one, like a reaction midday on Sundays. The Doctor shouldn't be dragged down to a teenager's level. This is my problem. He shouldn't be compromised. The Doctor shouldn't be a compromised character. He should be above that. In Pyramids of Mars, which we are all talking about for obvious reasons, is Sutek coming back? The main thing there is, remember when you saw the two brothers and one was possessed, the Scarman, and the Doctor was furious with the the Doctor, who actually thought he could save his brother even though he was possessed. And of course he rose above it. He didn't get compromised by crying and stuff like that. We watched Earthshock last night, me and Jamie. Earthshock Part 4, Adric dies. Just sorry, spoilers. Peter Davison's Doctor didn't cry. Peter Davison's Doctor didn't show much interest, really. He just went quiet. But yeah, I mean, come on. The Doctor is above it all. That's the issue here, isn't it? Sadako24 is saying that I got my coffin right. Oh, no, you're saying I got it. I was too nice. I was too kind. It was actually 81. Paul Richards, I know we've gone from Marco Polo, Inferno, and many others to Space Babies. But as I'm going to contest, is this the market he thinks wants this sort of thing? So let's just move on, because I've promised you, I've got loads to talk about. Don't you worry, as I would on a Sphere Saloon. So it's not commissioned yet. All's not in the bag yet, but they do sound quite cocksure about it. Okay. So, but that's what we're going to be doing, isn't it? Because obviously, if they're aiming for this younger generation, all a few 100,000 of them, and some of them yet to be born, we might as well go and do our other activities as we were advised to do in a very unkind way. Gosh, isn't it funny what community guidelines can be like? So, let me just prove the real market that's out there. This is from Gary Lee on Facebook, from good old DWB days. So, age breakdowns for Dot and Bubble reveal Disney Who remains the most popular with older viewers, despite the BBC and Russell Davies' stated intention of attracting younger viewers. Almost 60% of the audience is over 35, while only 11% is 4 to 15. So he says they've been astronomical, these figures, doesn't he? He says there's been a massive success, but he still needs us, and he needs us in big numbers. Meanwhile, 28-day numbers from Barb, excluding +4 screens, shows that people will tune in this time of year, and they're millions for good quality programming. Yes, Gary Lee showed you loads of examples. Baby Reindeer, loads where they were getting 8 and 9 million. And there's Doctor Who trundling around trying to scrape the barrel and for scraps for a bit more. Not impressive at all. And while he's going for the wrong market, I still contest. I think he's now regenerated. Now, and this is why I used a metaphor. I know you lot can cope with my metaphors, unlike community guidelines on X. This is why my contest today is Russell T Davies has regenerated into a modern day moral saviour of Doctor Who, i.e. Mary Whitehouse. That's a regeneration I'm showing you there. because I think he thinks that the younger generation want Doctor Who to look different. And we have seen so many examples of it. Let's have a look at a few to see where it's gone wrong. For example, I hated the language here. Your cosmic joyride awaits. Now, I tell you what, if this is a joyride, I want to get off now, because this has been more of a killjoy. I mean, tell me what's been joyful about these episodes. He's cried a lot. He's been pretty useless. Ruby Sunday's been solving half the issues. Cosmic joyride. Standing on a landmine. Changing nappies for babies. Seeing that the Beatles are blooming useless musically. Seeing a horrible white elitist world where they just go online all the time. And then in the end, they discriminate against you. I mean, gosh, what a joyride this is. I think they've got their wording wrong. They call this a joyride. Wow. Let's see where we are on the thread. This is my first time doing a Saloon live, so if I miss people out, I do apologise, but I'll try and keep up with it. You've also, yeah, Dr. Boo-hoo says Cybermat strikes. The damp doctor, so many tears. Ruby is the doctor would be a great twist at the end. And there's always a twist at the end, Archibald Lazarus, as you know. Sadako24, you're saying that the ratings look worse than Jodie's. Well, technically that's true. With one of them I showed you, the 3.38 for Dot and Bubble consolidated is worse than Legend of the Sea Devils, isn't it? It's actually worse. So, but remember, everybody, we get told off. We get told off by the generation out there who say, for example, you know, that it's not about overnights. It's not about that. Well, what is it about? MCTV, the Disney contract was for 3 seasons, wasn't it? It was for 2 seasons. It was for, I don't know, I've forgotten the figure, whether it's 26 episodes or 28. If you think there's going to be that mooted 5-part spin-off series, if you think there's going to be, we've had 10 episodes now, remember, then there's another 8 in the bag plus Christmas. Before you add it all up, that they've kind of done it. Everything's been done. So we're now waiting for the new contract, if there is one. So it wasn't a joyride to me. So we're in the court of King Russell, who's now regenerated as the moral savior of Doctor Who. I have to change it to save the franchise. I have to save it to reach out to this new audience out there. And you can see one of my examples, the sonic screwdriver. So let's go into where we can see he's changed because he thinks that these youngsters can't cope with anything. And I think, personally, he's been unfair. So if he has turned into Mary Whitehouse, the scourge of the 70s Doctor Who fan, yeah, let's have a look. So, on the one hand, Russell Davies, like everyone else who loved Doctor Who, resented the interference of the moral arbiter of TV, Mary Whitehouse. She was our scourge. She hated any exciting cliffhangers, felt children were too scared by Doctor Who, the policemen and authority figures should not be seen as evil, that apparently our sensitive, immature heads couldn't cope with waiting a week to know if the 4th Doctor would manage to get another breath from under the murky, swampy waters of the Matrix. That lovely world that the Master was seen to be in charge of. I loved it. Children thrive on fear that sparks and ignites the imagination of possibility. She ultimately had, Mary Whitehouse, ultimately had the violence ripped out of Doctor Who by scared BBC executives fearing for their jobs. One of the most successful eras of Doctor Who was killed off by the killjoy Mary Whitehouse, the fun slayer. And now, my contest is RTD has turned into her. And so now I think it starts to make sense. If his job was to grab the under 30s, this does start to make sense what he's done. I'm not justifying it. Davros. Davros cannot be evil in a wheelchair. That is problematic for the under 30s. I need to send a better message, RTD thinks. So, of course, we have, I would say, mistake number 1. And of course, then we had this ridiculous discussion about the sonic screwdriver. Remember this quotation from him? From him. The Doctor's trusty sonic screwdriver has been redesigned to resemble a remote control of flip phone or other things have been mentioned because Davies worried that the old sonic looked too much like a gun, which would encourage kids to pretend to shoot at one another. Now, this is the issue. I do think he's turned into Mary Whitehouse, and this is making logical sense to me for where he's going, but I think he's got it completely wrong. He's thinking, sorry, I've only taught, 11 to 18-year-olds for 30 years, but he knows better because he's been in LA and he's been surrounded by lovies who never question him. So, sorry, I must bow down to this great experience of the youngsters. So he thinks the youngsters will think that something called a screwdriver will obviously be problematic and dangerous, so it's got to be changed in design. I haven't seen B&Q shutting yet. Those Americans out there, it's our big DIY store. They're not shutting that because all those screwdrivers are on the shelves, all those dangerous things. This is a nonsense argument from Mary Whitehouse too, Russell T Davies too. It's a nonsense. So basically, the sonic screwdriver, he says, is like a gun, so he's had to change it. And then, of course, yeah, there you go. I remember making these. I made loads of them. I so enjoyed this. And it's funny how X allowed these, but they won't allow me to show a coffin. Lethal Weapon, the Sea Devils get it. I remember that one. And of course, the Dalek gets it. I mean, it's such a lethal weapon, isn't it? The sonic screwdriver. So, no Davros in wheelchair. No sonic screwdriver. And remember, if you watch the video commentary of Boom, Stephen Moffat was saying this. They were saying that when Ruby Sunday was shot, she was a lot more dead. Do you remember that? Yeah. There was a lot of pushback from us being wimps, says the Bad Wolf crew. I just had her face down in the mud, says Stephen Moffat. And I was saying, you've all gone soft. Right? Let's just remember this. RTD is going for the under 30s. He is saying in the Radio Times magazine today that they have been a massive success in grabbing that market, but the rest of us are not enjoying the program. So what, you gain 200,000 people who don't normally watch TV, but you're turning off millions. Wow, this is a brilliant marketing strategy, this. And in order to grab the under 30s who are very, find everything problematic, they need safe spaces from their own parents, that sort of thing, very 1984. What they're doing is the sonic screwdriver can't look like it's got a different shape. It's long, so it's a gun. We can't have Davos in a wheelchair. We can't have Death looking like Death. Can't have that. So you can see how this is starting to pull together. And yet earlier on, we had great games with RTD in the first 4 seasons. And I had less problems with that area. But again, look at what he thinks the youngsters are like. Again, I've taught these. I'm not quite sure about this. As the world darkens, and I do think the world is darkening around queer rights, I'm beginning to worry about where we are in society, and that we need a hero out there cutting his way through the universe. Now, if you want to just buy into what he's saying for a second, what is heroic about the shooty doctor who actually doesn't resolve many things, actually followed his private parts in the last episode because he got turned on by some character and just disappeared into the bushes. Meanwhile, his companion basically could have died if she hadn't used her common sense. I still don't know how she got out of that. But basically, the doctor actually was just reckless and abandoned her, and he was neglectful, even though he'd promised to look after her to the mother. So basically, let's go back. RTD thinks in this dark time, we need, I hate the word, a queer doctor, a queer hero, cutting his way through the universe because of this dark world we're in. I tell you what, he was like a gay predator. And I have to say, I will talk about that today quite openly. I'm a gay man, and I think he's been made, he's made into a sleazebag. So as we're going through this, my arguments are piling up, aren't they? So let's take a pregnant pause and see what you're saying in the thread to see if I can pick up on some of them. Hiya, Scottish Davros. Well, I've got Davros in for you. The marketing as well didn't scream excitement, RTD, and Bad Wolf has got all aspects of this spectacularly wrong. Yes, I think they're pitching to the wrong market, and that's been the problem. Mark Lewis, hello. I can't see what they expect to gain from showing the last 2 episodes in cinemas. The youngsters trying to create an event. Remember, Mark, we're going to have 2 episodes on Eurovision night. to create an event. In the end, they ended with egg on their face, because I think a lot of people tuned out of Space Babies. Well, I've got the evidence, haven't I? Tuned out of Space Babies, didn't watch Devil's Card till later, and then it's been downhill since. Yes, Cybermat Strikes, he's the fun police. He is. And this, but you see, this is it. This is 1984. This is autocracy. This is how fascists run places. They're the fun police, you know. That's hate crime. That's the fun police. Brendan on X today, your coffin metaphor for the Rogue episode. Did it kill Doctor Who? That was unkind. To what? A TV show. Hello, Peter Harrington. Good to see you. I still think those dot and bubble monsters look like a big chocolate eclair. Don't get me hungry at this time of day. Yes, Paul Richards, I agree. RTD is now sanctimonious, like Whitehouse, although she disagree with the sexual aspects in Doctor Who. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's a modern manifestation, but I really do think that I'm onto something. And so if I just remind everybody, I do think Russell T Davies has deliberately bigenerated into Mary Whitehouse too, because he thinks that the youngsters have morals and ethics and they're all kind. Trouble is, the argument falls flat all the time, doesn't it? If he's trying to win the under 30s, was the whole dot and bubble plot insulting them by saying that they're so pathetically absorbed with what's online that they can't see what's in front of them? And they weren't very nice people either. So how insulting. Michael Nemo, good to see you. Do you remember in Robocop 2 when they gave him too many directives that made him a useless cop? But to me, if they've, I mean, have the BBC really said to him, get the under 30s? Go and get a market that doesn't exist. RTD, don't bother with the market that's there. Go and get another one. But these are BBC executives and they don't live in the real world anyway. So maybe that, why am I trying to find sense in something? A late midlife crisis for Davies is likely the cause of him becoming a gay activist. Davies' recent comments suggest he's living in a bubble populated only with flamboyant gay people. Canal Street, Manchester. Yeah, I do think, and sometimes I don't think it's deliberate. I think you know, when you're successful, you end up in your own cocoon. You do. It happens to everybody. It happens to politicians a lot. So yes, it's bothering me big time. Libro Paradiso. I wonder if the same audience that likes the Doctor seducing Rogue would they have felt the same way if Chris, Matt, Tennant, Capaldi had done the same with their female companions? The thing is, we've all seen this argument that people are saying, "Oh, you lot, you're all homophobic." I'm gay. You're all homophobic. Going mad about the Rogue kiss. You lot, you don't understand. Were you happy when the Doctor was marrying River? Were you happy when he was kissing Rose? And they give you a list. I have to say, it's quite shocking. Since 2005, that you could screenshot about it's about 15 screen kisses with different people and the Doctor. How many would you have seen before the movie? How many? And so it's been deliberately changed. So all these other people arguing, saying, come on, lot, you know, this has happened before. So why are you angry about this kiss? I never said I was happy about the kiss in the first place. I never said I was happy about the Doctor being compromised. I never said that. It's RTD who's getting us into the murky waters. So you can see he thinks we're in a dark world. We need this queer Doctor to be very heroic. When? We need rid of the Sonic. We need rid of Davros in the wheelchair. We can't have a realistic death like in Boom. And I will go on with my analogy of the Court of King Russell turning into Mary Whitehouse. And we come to obviously one of the big contentions now, don't we? Which was the end of Dot and Bubble, because that did have many, many problems, I thought. If I just get myself in order. We had the racial chat at the end. It was so problematic and written so badly. It hadn't been signposted. It was like an afterthought. I didn't understand the logic of hating these people, all these white, privileged, elite people. And let's be honest, one of the other bigger arguments he could have gone for, rather than the racial slant, he should have gone on for the ageism, because they all were only obsessed with 17 to 27. He, the shooty doctor, whether he was black or white, was over 27. Why wasn't that the big issue? You know, that they were just ageist. And why is ageism not as sexy or attractive as an idea for somebody who's moral than another ist? The other angle at the end of Dot and Bubble that concerned me with this poor writing is that he could have incorporated many races at the end in the message, because he could have had the argument, as since he was cribbing off, let's be honest, he was cribbing off H.G. Wells as the Time Machine. So why wasn't he honest about it? The Time Machine was about the class system in Victorian England. So why didn't RTD have a class argument? And so Shooty and loads of other people who are seen as working class, black, Asian, white, working class, and they've been ostracized. They've been maltreated by this elite. I would have thought that argument would have been more inclusive, would have been kinder, would have made more sense, rather than going for this kind of sledgehammer tactic of, we've got a black doctor, so I want to do a black speech. You've missed the point, mate. RTD, you really could have still had an interesting argument, and Shooty seen as riffraff working class, like some of us are treated as white, as black, as Asian. And he could have grouped everybody together as working class. He missed the point. But maybe I maybe he can't do subtle. So I had a problem with that. I also had a problem because a lot of these people who are in charge of TV now, oh God, if you mention the word empire, oh my God, if you mention the word colony, if you mention anything about British or American history or anything, whoa, they kick off. And yet the message accidentally written on a postage envelope somewhere at 2 a.m, you know, he always says at 2 a.m, he's trying to argue with himself about choosing the word yet or but. Really? Well, he got this wrong, didn't he? I mean, the ending was basically you've got racist white elitist kids who were awful to our hero character, and the doctor offered to put them on an empty planet to start a new life. They were white elitists. Why would he want to help them? Why would he want to damage a new planet? Why would he want them to start a new colony on a new planet? It made absolutely no sense at all to reward discrimination. Absolute no sense. So people can do that and go, oh, well done. That speech at the end was amazing. Well, yeah, on the surface, oh my gosh, you know, he faced discrimination. The first doctor to face discrimination. Oh my God, well done, RTD. It's our TV moment of the year. And then let's look at it properly. But he was offering to help them. He was offering to help them colonize an innocent little planet. Empire, imperialism, colonization. RTD's all for that, and he thinks the younger generation, that'll win them over. Does he know this younger generation? I must grab the under 30s. Let's do empire. Let's do colonization, and only for white people. Because that was the message at the end of Dot and Bubble, aided by the doctor. Right, let me calm down and come back to the thread. Paul Richards, RTD and Julie Gardner are ageist. Their preferred doctors played. The thing is, we all know there was an issue, sadly, with the ratings from Peter Capaldi onwards. It was a damn shame. But you know, people have added 2 and 2 and made 5 and said Capaldi was a bit older. It didn't work. We need another Matt Smith type. Surely everybody, including the under 30s, are a little bit more complex in their thinking than that. As Archibald Lazarus agrees with me, sexualize the doctor and you make him less alien. But I think the big one is you compromise him. You really compromise him in the plot. I mean, come on. I said it on my Sunday stream. I would have slapped the doctor in that episode. Especially if I was Cherry Sunday, because he promised to look after her daughter and he basically just went and looked after himself. How is that heroic? There was no heroism in that at all. And if you think about So he got Ruby Sunday into a terrible fix. She got herself out of it. Then she got into that horrible red triangle where she was going to die and they couldn't get her out. Did he get her out? No. Rogue did. So where is this heroic character? He's horrible. He was suffering from hubris and arrogance. And that, badly written. While they're so busy going for their tick boxes, they forget that it needs to be a cohesive, logical character. And he might have the right skin color for them. He might have the right vibe, the right sexuality. He might have all their tick boxes to say, oh gosh, isn't Doctor Who amazing nowadays? Because did you see on Sky News and various other outlets saying the first ever gay kiss in Doctor Who after 61 years? Well done, RTD, award-winning, Yeah, but none of it made sense. Why didn't they say for the first time in 61 years, the Doctor had absolutely screwed up and really, really did deserve to lose his companion and suffer the consequences? And when he cried, when he was crying, when he realized that Ruby Sunday was dead, I think he was crying for himself. It was guilt. Right, let's have a look. Archibald Lazarus, Britain and the USA were at war in 1813, but the show didn't research that. No, it wanted a little anti-Brexit point. That's what it wanted. It likes to, his prism is quite tight. And you continue, the empty planet thing. Is it immigration good? Yeah, I know what you mean. But if you've got a barren, innocent planet out there, untouched, it's a bit like saying once the Amazon rainforest wasn't touched. Are we all saying it's good now it's been touched and infected and ruined? I actually think that the argument could go both ways. It'd be an interesting debate, but basically he was rewarding and giving a second chance to white elitists. And I'm not sure how you can sell that one, RTD. Yeah, Anthony Parkinson agrees. I mean, it's poor fiction, isn't it? It's so badly written. He's not joining the dots. Yeah, the empty planet thing reminded Archibald Lazarus of the invasion of the dinosaurs conspiracy. Yeah, but that was better. Hiya, Bobby D. How about the Collider article from one of the writers of Rogue calling it fan fiction? Too right. He doesn't have new ideas. This whole season hasn't really shown any more. Sorry, I've seen him. XSM. Yeah. Well, do you want a yellow card? I can give you. I'm always giving Sean yellow cards on the program. I can't get the teacher out of me. Oh, is that a referee? It is, isn't it? John Steed, good to see you as well. They got Capaldi out because he was not fitting the bruise. Well, yeah, and they needed to get somebody else in, and we all know who that was. But you continue by saying this Doctor is selfish and self-absorbed, and it's not a good look. It's just not a good look, and it's not heroic, and it doesn't make you want to follow his adventures. You think of what got you into Doctor Who. You think of your Doctor, and there might have been aloof sometimes. RTD is obsessed by saying, oh, the classic Doctor Whos were pompous. And he's been quoted saying that. And I'm thinking, well, you've decided to call them pompous. You can call the old Doctors an awful lot of things. Pompous might be one of them sometimes, but they were also very caring and they also risked their life. They were heroic. But they weren't selfish and they weren't self-absorbed. You tell me which classic Doctor was that. RTD, Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall have played around with the concept of the Doctor and diminished him in the process. I personally knew straight women who stopped watching after Matt Smith left. They watched Doctor Who for the romance, not Doctor Who. There will have been some people like that. Like I said, I was a teacher. Matt Smith was popular. The kids weren't telling me they fancied him. They liked the gimmicks of the fez and stuff like that. Doctor Who reached a crescendo then. I remember more some girls saying they liked David Tennant. I do remember that. I remember female staff of a certain age all saying they adored Chris Eccleston. They thought he was a bit of all right. So there's always that, isn't there? There's always a bit of that, but I think a lot of us go there for the story and other stuff as well, and that has been sadly lacking. You can have the most good-looking actor, but if it's tripe, you're not going to watch every week. Just get a pin-up of the person. I think Ruby's going to end up being the hero with this Doctor just a buffoonish distraction. Do you think we've already got there? Merrill Soul Gigglesmith. The problem with sexualizing the Doctor is now we question the motive why this old man keeps picking teenage girls as companions. Before it was friendship, now it seems sexual. Look, just go back to the trailer with Chris Eccleston and Billy Piper. It's going to be adventurous. It's going to be this. Do you want to come with me? And he opens the doors. I mean, unfortunately, it has that horrible, sinister vibe of, the old classic trope of a van going around a school offering puppies or sweets. It's not good. And again, they don't think about this. They really don't think. If you are going to sexualize the Doctor, suddenly the prism is different with how we look at it. Peter Harrington, it's a little comparable, but look at Face of Evil. A computer governs two tribes, but through the Doctor, he brings people together through adversary. That's his character to help. He is and has been, he's the outsider, he's the pariah. He doesn't normally fit into a tribe, and that's what makes him work. Yeah, and I think a lot of you agree. And look at this, RTD damaged Doctor Who when he got younger fans believing that the Doctor was a romantic hero. And now they will argue the toss with you, as you know, for ages. Bobby D says, I know, but it was forced romance. I don't think they've got any new ideas. I just don't think they've got any new ideas. So the only thing you can do is write soap opera. My next saloon is going to be about how everything is soap now, and RTD can't write decent sci-fi. It has to be through the prism of soap. Now, XXM, I was thinking this myself. They blatantly landed this episode for Pride Month because there's very little actual story. It's all just the lead up to that kiss scene. And you know what? You had the Boom episode when really it was all centered on just standing on a mine and talking, really. I mean, there wasn't much going on, was there? I mean, you can't say it was drama. With this one, it was building up to just that kiss scene. And yes, they will argue that, oh, well, Bridgerton's all like that, the scandal and all the rest of it, but you can do it in so many different ways. My God. So I'll move on a little bit because, I've got plenty of arguments there. Can I just say, I'll just even myself up here. When I said, if he's aiming for the under 30s who don't like problematic thoughts, who like to be in a safe space, behind the sofa is a good place. And that's why we've got rid of Sonic being looking like a gun. And all my argument there. When you think of the giggle, the puppets, when they were surrounding Donna Noble, for that one moment in the whole story, I thought, there's suspense, there's Doctor Who. I don't know if he's called Mr. Banerjee, but remember, he got killed, didn't he? He got turned into wood. And at the end of the episode, he was revived again and normalized. Is that the Mary Whitehouse effect, where RTD can't show a death? Because I thought, oh, that's brilliant. Because you remember in those early specials, you're trying to work out, is RTD back properly? Because having those sinister puppets and then you can be turned into wood by the toy maker would have been brilliant. We needed more of that. But the episode was all about Spice Girls and various other things. And dancing, two men dancing. He's going there quite heavily this series. So, missing the trick, missing the point. It should be about scaring the kids. And he's scared of scaring the kids. I will tell you all in the thread viewing us, do you know the thing I'm most scared of in Doctor Who? The thing that scares me the most? Unleashed. It's when RTD is interviewed on Unleashed every week. That scares me to death. Scottish Davros will know November, that awful moment when he explained Davros. And since then, when RTD opens his mouth on a video commentary or on Unleashed, he scares me witless because he tells you that the bi-generation could be every Doctor's still out there. And you're going, oh, no, don't do this. That has not been thought out. No, don't do that. And it just continues. John Steed, sorry, I'm just getting there. This rogue guy is just a poor man's Captain Jack, rehashed writing. Yeah, I think we used to call it plagiarism. Because Stephen Moffat had a good idea. RTD changes it. Yes, the giggle started out creepy but ended up a joke. And that's what is the problem. Everybody, if you want to praise RTD, you say the word midnight. And I'll grant him, I loved Midnight. Clever, it was like the Crucible, brilliant. And actually cheap. And there's the point. You don't need a big budget. You didn't need Disney involved at all. Midnight, you're stuck. Whether it's the horror fan rock, whether you're on, a space station under siege on the moon base, you just need to be trapped and let the story then develop. And honestly, I take away all the big effects because that was imagination. Midnight was really you were imagining, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who you've seen on various platforms. He's a panelist on with us as well. He said Midnight was his favorite, and it scared him to death as a kid. I mean, that's Doctor Who. RTD, you did it once, because most of the scary, remember, scary is bad now for the under 30s. So remember that when I used to, on one of my streams, I had all of the RTD stories and I color coded them. And I don't think any of them really have been scary. I think Moffat's done scary ones. Are You My Mummy, Vashta Narada, etc., the Weeping Angels. But has RTD written scary Doctor Who? And the one that keeps coming into my mind is Midnight. After that, I get stuck. So now he's in charge again. He doesn't know this. As I'm contesting today, he's not the custodian of Doctor Who. He's the destroyer of Doctor Who. I don't need Sutek to come back. We've got him back. We've got RTD, the great slayer of fandom, the great slayer of canon, the great slayer of consistency. Sutek. With the current iteration of RTD, you can see why Barrowman thought it's okay to behave as he did. Well, you see, this is it. Revisionism. RTD is different now to he was in the first iteration, so he can just pretend. The world's changed. In fact, that's what he's been saying. He says this in the Radio Times article as well, which I started this program about, and I can remind you of the quotes in a moment. But he says Doctor Who has to keep changing. Now we know, a little bit. Somebody had a brilliant post yesterday on Facebook, who showed you from 1963 to around the 1980s, Doctor Who had subtle changes, but you could see from William Hartnell to Peter Davison till Sylvester, you could see roughly the same character. But from, mind you, there was a very clever point. They showed you Chris Eccleston to now, but they showed you Shooty in a leather jacket, Chris Eccleston in a leather jacket, both schmoozing around sexually. And they say all those changes in classic Doctor Who, nice and subtle, no changes at all with RTD's Who. We haven't really changed. He still likes the same old stuff. I like this one, Doug. Shooty turned into Woods. Never mind the giggle, but not in a good way. I think he was after. Matthew Pounder, can't believe certain YouTubers are still defending this drivel. Matthew Pounder, I was just teaching before this happened last year. And what a world it is. I was stunned perpetually by YouTube and online and people not understanding what a question is. Every time I get criticized by people who don't like the question. And I'm thinking, yeah, but the beauty is the answer. No. Don't want the question. And Doug Sims again, Unleashed is RTD propaganda, but it's bad propaganda. If this is his great propaganda machine, you see, what makes me think, Doug, is he writes fast the scripts, and then he goes on Unleashed, and he then almost explains himself all the stuff that is not in the episode. Now, surely that is cop-out writing. I do think there is narcissism, but isn't that an under-30s trope? Well, it was in Dot and Bubble. I'm not saying that. Oh, whoa. RTD was saying that the under-30s are narcissistic. So sorry, that was not me. Shh. RTD loves himself. He's obviously down with the kids. Yes, TARDIS Spider, I agree. That's why Midnight worked. The unseen, unknown are the scariest. We know he tried to rehash it with Wild Blue Yonder. It was working until it got silly. And I did like the robot, I have to say. What an underused prop that was. Robert Sanderson, hello. RTD has run out of new ideas. I agree. And he says it in the writer's tale. And I really respected him. I love that book. Fantastic idea. And I love to see how he did the writing process. But he did acknowledge he's out of Doctor Who. Stephen Moffat said the same. And I have to say, I'm going, that's fair enough, mate. You've given us so many ideas. How you made Day of the Doctor pull together in that way, I was really impressed. Because it wasn't a bad tale. You had some brilliant surprises with the curator and all the rest of it. Great. But you're knackered. And don't come back. Yeah, don't come back. You're knackered. But no, he's coming back for money. Let's be honest. Spin-offs, Marvel Universe. Yes, I know. And RTD in an interview did say low budget work. He said we can make Horror Fan Rock tomorrow. Well, just do it. Do you know why they won't do it though? And this is why it's become a club, the cartel. We've had RTD twice, Chris Chibnall and Stephen Moffat. A group of mates who've bonded over Doctor Who. But it seems to me the way we're operating now is they won't allow anybody else a turn. You know, there were rumours. We know there were rumours out there. Would the BBC ask an American producer this time? Will they reach out for new blood? Toby Whitehouse. Let's go for somebody different. Somebody who's been very successful with Being Human and stuff like that. No. We'll do somebody who's done it before. We'll go back. And, you know, what did RTD say? He said one of his first phone calls was Murray Gold. One of his first phone calls was Chris Chibnall. And one of his first phone calls was Stephen Moffat. So when are you reaching out? When are we getting the new blood, the new ideas? Because you were out of ideas. And that is allowed. Yeah, he's run out of ideas. Most of the stories in this new season have ideas that have been blatantly taken from other shows and movies. And this is the point that somebody missed the other day. They said, Brendan, Doctor Who's always done parody. Doctor Who has always copied other genres and copied... Yeah, well, I know. You know, we know from the Hinchcliffe era, 1 week it was The Thing, with the Seeds of Doom, then Pyramids of Mars, The Mummy. I know. But... Doctor Who was a bit more subtle than that, though, amazingly enough. It had its own message. Now it just seems to be Doctor Who is an empty, hollowed-out husk of a programme, and they're trying to say, right, this week we'll plant Doctor Who in Bridgerton and make it Bridgerton. And that's what makes it interesting. Then this hollowed-out, bland Doctor franchise is plonked somewhere else with lots of pooing babies. Because that's a nice look who's talking idea. But we've lost the Doctor Who consistency. That just doesn't exist. Yes, I know. We're going to get ourselves down at this rate. Paul Richards. Claustrophobic stories are the best. Midnight is my favourite 10th Doctor story. Heaven Sent my favourite 12th Doctor story. There you go. Say no more. The more power and money RTD has to play with, the more unstable he seems. I know. He's a kid in a sweet shop. XSM, I totally agree with you. You see, I do think Doctor Who should be behind the sofa stuff. Make kids scared, you've won them for life. Can't remember the last scary scene in You Who. You're right, you're just not doing the scary thing anymore. And remember, that was the start of my argument. He said they were aiming for the under 30s. That was his mission. Is this because he has thought, well, I've got to be the new moral kind of, compass. I've now got to be the new Mary Whitehouse. I've got to make sure the kids aren't offended. Liberal Paradiso, the Roman fantasy camp Doctor Who detracts from any drama. That's the appeal for many. They don't like too much reality in their stories. Right, come on then. Why did you join Doctor Who? Why did you all find Doctor Who? And I think once you're able to articulate it, apart from you were scared, it was the escapism. When you were 5 or 6, were you saying to your mum and dad, I want the news on? No. I remember as a kid, when the news came on, it always seemed just a bit boring. That's all. It was just boring. They were talking to you. Get on with it. Then Doctor Who comes on. So in my child mind, the escapism of it. And yes, liberal parody. So that's what we need. Yes, I see Mark Lewis. I remember as an English teacher, I was head of English. We had loads of Goosebumps and stuff like that. And they were flying off the shelves. This was for their leisure time. I don't mean for a teach Goosebumps, but because it was secondary school. But when they have spare time and you try and encourage them to read. I had piles of goosebumps, piles of stuff, and they were fighting for them. Same with Harry Potter, of course. Now, Harry Potter takes itself seriously. Harry Potter has a consistency in its narrative arc and its characterization, written by a writer with imagination who takes no messing, who is as modern as everybody else is J.K. Rowling, but she's no fool, and she won't pander to fads. And she's taken a lot of steam for it. RTD is weaker and will pander to fads, and therefore we will lose. It won't be such a strong a program. Doug Sims, Doctor Who doesn't need big budgets, just good stories, but they are lacking, aren't they? Technology has advanced to the point Doctor Who doesn't need to look like crap with the right production team. No, it doesn't. Every week, I do think it looks good. Every week, I think it has high production values. And every week, I think I say on my reviews on Sundays, I feel sorry for the people behind the scenes. They are showing all their skill and ingenuity. And unfortunately, the stories just aren't rewarding them. And it must be gutting to see that the ratings aren't as high. Thank you, TARDIS Spider. Say hit the like button. If anybody is new to us, we do so many different streams. We do the reviews. We do big debates. We debate on this channel. I don't like echo chambers. I like people to argue with me. And yeah, please, we've been going since the giggle. We've got 500 odd subscribers. Please subscribe. It gives me a good excuse to show subscription. You know me, I love my target subscription thing. So let's get this up for a second. There you go. Oh, remember the Spider Parliament? Spider Parliament focusing for more. Come on, we want more subscriptions. Go on, click on not subscribe. Reward us by tea time. And if that one doesn't grab you because we're all sorts, what about this one then? The Dalek Supreme scouting for more subscribers. I know it looked like a torch when it lit up his eye stalk, but I still love, Plans of the Daleks is one of my go-to comfort blankets. I absolutely adore it. I adore it. So yes, please subscribe. Thanks for that reminder, Terry. I do sometimes forget, to even mention it. Pikehead. Well, I'm out after that. It's a crying shame. It is a crying shame. As I said at the beginning, he says we are a massive success with the under 30s who don't normally watch TV. Right, so you've gained another few 100,000. That's it. The millions who used to watch Doctor Who are still watching TV, are leaving and they don't seem bothered. It is a crying shame because those are the ones who were there in the wilderness years. Those are the loyal ones. I was trying to explain to somebody on a Facebook post yesterday that, when some fans go, well, if you don't like it, go away. Well, hold on a minute. I'm also a football fan. There's no way any football club, if they see me booing some players or criticizing the manager or formation, stuff that fans do, would they say, right, take your season ticket, clear off, we don't want your sort? Can you see a football team, a football club talking like that? They prize their fans. They know how passionate fans are and they respect them and they know that is part of it. Whereas in Doctor Who, we have the main actor, the showrunner, and Jinx Monsoon, who said, when you're leaving, slam the door behind you. Jinx Monsoon, you're not even a fan of Doctor Who, so don't even start saying it's your club. This always feels like an ambush, that Doctor Who has been turned into this husk, and it's now just a political platform and plaything for people to just frequent. And those of us who are saying, hold on a minute, this isn't what it was. Go away, get out, shut the door behind you. We don't want your sort. It has been a colonization of Doctor Who, the franchise. And they don't like us calling it out. Yeah, Peter, I agree with you. Doctor Who has, to me, been a release from all the... Yeah, we all need that, for God's sake. I could do with that now. Every week now, are you the same? As soon as I've watched the episode, I look to Jamie and I'm going... You just wonder what has happened. How can you get it so wrong? Hello, Scottish Davos again. Maybe both the Nightmare Man and the Day of the Clown from the Sarah Jane Adventures. Well, they're talking about bringing the trickster back, aren't they? They're talking about so many blooming things from Sarah Jane Adventures. I just hope they don't dabble at all. One way I know the show is on fumes. Doctor Who constantly needs to refer to previous doctors or needs to declare I am the Doctor a lot. RTD hates older fans but seems to appeal to them whenever possible. Well, the Sutek trick is for us lot, isn't it? It'll be very intriguing how he does it and whether it does please us, because I doubt it very much. Matt Worrell, hello. Please subscribe. I don't understand the desire for a younger audience. I'm in my 40s. I'd watch Doctor Who if it was good. I watched the specials and decided it wasn't for me anymore. But you see, I'm never going to say goodbye, good riddance. There's 2 people in our thread who aren't coming back. Oh, well, please come back to us. We're doing Nostalgia Wednesday, 7 p.m. We always tomorrow night we're doing Earthshock, and we're doing the creepiest alien settings. And we do our usual chit chat on a Wednesday, 7 p.m. Join us, please. So if you like your nostalgia, keep coming back. John Steed. In the late 1980s, I was one of the many fans trying to save Doctor Who. Now, many years on, I'm willing for it to end. I think it does need a rest. And I know when you say that, there's no guarantee it'll come back. Hello, Terrified Monk. The only good thing about this season is I've discovered this channel. Oh, I and a few other channels that have given me more entertainment than Doctor Who has. Well, we've found a club, haven't we? I was just a teacher. A year ago, I was just teaching. I'd seen 1 or 2 streams during lockdown, but I didn't think I'd end up doing it. Roland Rose. It was a shame to see your hero crying and out of ideas to save Ruby and the real hero Rogue taken over and say, yeah, like the Doctor. When did the new Doctor ever have a good idea? I know. Very depressing. So I will move on. You know me, I've got pals to say. So I've set it up regarding the big argument. And you see, in Dot and Bubble, remember, he dared the audience to, when did you know that it was an all-white cast? So I'm aiming for the under 30s, he says, and we've been a massive success with the under 30s. Is he saying that the under 30s just do tick boxing and play these superficial games of count how many white or black people are on TV or something? Because I was watching the story. I was actually interested in this. Well, sorry, I'm pushing. I'm pushing it here. I was watching Dot and Bubble for the reasons any Doctor Who fan would. What's going on? What's happening? And so I was focused on all this nonsense with the online social media and seeing all the slugs and working that out. There was no signposting in it to say at the end there's going to be a big screeching of brakes and suddenly we're going to have a big racial discrimination moment, because there was no hint of that at all. He had appeared on screen. Yes, she was hovering over the block button, but she didn't instantly do it. And remember, she could have also had a problem because anybody over 27 is stinky. So there were loads of ways they could have dealt with it. But he was baiting his audience. So that anybody over 35, he was just saying, how racist are you? How limited are you? They're really, really... Do you know what? You would love to do a mass boycott of Doctor Who over these next 2 episodes, just to say to them, do you really not want us? The trouble is, I do want to see if it's Sutek. I do want it to be successful. The big question I think we've all got to ask ourselves is, it's been dross so far. If the last 2 episodes look a bit more like Doctor Who, where he does solve it, big enemy, a good story, then does that save the season? It's a hard one, isn't it? It's a real hard one. But yeah, this is the one that got us all talking again, wasn't it? Which was the whole episode centered around, really, ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's a gay relationship or not, but the Doctor in a relationship. And that promise, it seemed to me, that in the future, season 2, or maybe the end of this season, we're going to go looking for Rogue. And now it's a love quest. So now we don't have a wanderer in the 4th dimension. Now we don't have a Doctor who was bored on Gallifrey and now wants to just kind of, fight evil across the universe, because even the Time Lords thought he was useful. No. Now he's looking for his man. Yeah, really problematic. So I have had real problems with this series. I've had problems more with some of the speeches from people, and I'm sure you have as well. And when I saw the Radio Times today and I saw what he was saying, I really did wonder, what is making this man tick? What is making the BBC tick? So if I just kind of do remind you, let's have a look. So my argument is Russell T Davies has had to change himself. He's a changed man anyway, but he feels as though he's had to change himself into some sort of moral saviour of Doctor Who to win over the under 30s. And the reason is he, of course, says, like up there, he's very proud of this season. You know, there might not be the ratings we'd love. We always want higher, but they are building over the 28-day period. Episode 1 of Space Babies is already up to 5.6 million and counting. So it's getting there. And I was brought back to bring in a younger audience. That's been massively successful. And as you know, I went through all that. So it really does worry, doesn't it? What are we happy? Zombie Box Reviews, good to see you. We don't need a doctor in a relationship, even if it's a hetero one. I even cringed with Ten and Rose. It was good at the time, but I was hoping that the doctor was above it. Carlo Belton, the problem is there's no U-turn on the current structure of the show. Due to the fact they are filming and filmed season 2. Disney haven't picked them up for season 3 yet, and I confirm that yet. Therefore, if the rating drops, I think they will do a season 3. He sounds very, very confident. Remember, I had the chart up there, didn't I? He did sound very confident. I mean, let me just get the right one. There you go. I'm working on the 4th script now for season 3. It's not actually commissioned. That's still up in the air, but that's the same for every TV program. I shouldn't say we're confident because that's asking for a fall, but we're very confident, to be honest. So just to remind you of that one, right? So he sounds confident. He sounds confident. Daniel's Hot Topics. I thought that the 4th Doctor killed Sutek when he trapped him in a time. I looked at that because, you know, I hope you all know, I've been predicting Sutek would be back from all the clues from one of the trailers, and I did a stream on it. I got some of them wrong, of course. But when you look at Pyramids of Mars episode 4, he doesn't see, obviously, Sutek die. He just says an Osiris might live for 7,000 or 8,000 years, and he's pushed him way beyond that in the time corridor thing. And so there's an assumption, and it was a safe assumption. At the end of Pyramid of Mars, you go, yeah, I can buy that. But now all bets are off. You think, actually, well, we didn't see the death of him. So, yeah, I don't know. Thanks so much for arranging the sense for you. The critics and discussions have made this ghastly series tolerable. Look, there's some really good streams out there, aren't there? I try and get debate on this channel when I can. I'm trying to get people who don't agree with a thing I say onto one of the panels. You know, I interviewed Jeremy, and that went down really well because I think it resonated with an awful lot of people. Even if you're still watching Doctor Who, he's a proper diehard fan, and he's found it hard. I'm trying to find somebody out there, if you're in the thread and you want to do it, somebody who actually can justify this Doctor Who at the moment, who actually likes it, who thinks it's great, and can explain all those questions we've got. Now, it won't be a brutal interview. I will interview them. I'm up for that. Libero Paradiso. After they've rehabilitated Tennant's doctor, yeah, you see, this is it. Who looks more broken? It's the Shooty Doctor. He only made the Tennant Doctor look a bit weak around the giggle, didn't he? But he's, you know, a return to a classic Doctor Who pre-90s film 2005 would have resolved any strong attachment to any companion. You see, I still believed when they were going to bring RTD back that they could have saved Doctor Who. I do. But I think we've now had 7 years of this. 7 years since Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall changing things. But this is it, Julian Darch. Because regeneration has now become a bit of a joke itself, because it's too many now. It's cheapened the value of it. Are you all sick of the yellow vapor regeneration? That's an RTD thing. Since 2005, it looked great the first time, but now it seems that every regeneration has to look exactly the same. You know, all you have to do is look at a doctor now and you're thinking, oh, his hands are steaming. Woo. And then you're going, oh, is he going to regenerate? Oh, no, he's having a bad day. He's having a mental health day. Yellow vapor. Oh, let's chop off his hands, do this. It's all gone silly now. It's gone gimmicky. They've turned regeneration into an excuse. Did you hear Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter in the LA Times when they said the program is built on regeneration? And you go, well, it wasn't called regeneration in the 60s, actually. I think the first time it was called regeneration was Planet of the Spiders. It was more of that Buddhist idea, wasn't it? It was renewal or recovery. I think William Hartnell's doctor, and the second one was just the Time Lord said you have to just change your face. So regeneration has been overused on screen. Regeneration has been overused as an idea to say, and this is why we're going to completely change the program, because we're going to regenerate it. And if you're a real Doctor Who fan, you know that it's all about regeneration. Therefore, we're going to regenerate. And if you don't like it, there's the door. You know, that lovely, kind attitude that we get nowadays, unless we're under 30, who like to just see things tick box. And I have to say, Cinnamon Toast Crunch is under 30. I've had Scott Price on under 30. We have people on who are under 30, and they don't like this. So I don't know who he thinks he's pitching his mast at. I see show 33. They keep telling us the show's stars want us to touch grass, and my puppets have. They haven't said a word after that. They're traumatized. Insulting older viewers. They judge the show's success by how much it offends. It's the Howard Stern of sci-fi. Sometimes I think you just have to agree, don't you? And I'm seeing in the thread people are saying, yes, I know Sutek came back in Big Finish. I don't understand. Sorry, I dip in and out of Big Finish. I didn't see that one, so I don't know what the argument was that brought him back, you know. This is the argument High Desert 004. Is Disney just a streaming platform, so they just want to fill airspace? It's a bit like our ITV3 or something. You just need to fill the schedule with anything. The trouble is, when you just want to fill the schedules, you might as well fill stuff like reality TV, cheap stuff. Do you really want to be filling your schedule and filling your budget with one program that's only 8 episodes a year, is quite expensive to make, and really isn't pulling in people? I mean, it's pulling in a few 100,000 desired under 30s. It's turning away its fans. Why don't you make something cheaper and just dump Doctor Who? I don't understand whether Disney would really want to hang around something expensive when they could make something cheaper. Make a Disney comedy like Saved by the Bell. Cheaper. 24 episodes, you know, like Friends used to do more. Be a lot cheaper than making Doctor Who and getting all this venom and all the rest of it. GB, you can't market something to a younger person if you don't actually understand them. Yes. Now, look, and can I just say something? I mentioned I was a teacher. I was a teacher, but I wasn't them. I was their head of year, but I wasn't them. I was sat in the same room as them, listening to their problems. But you can't, and I never did, by the way, you can't say to them, this is how I did it. You can't say to them, this is what you should do. You have to try and lead them to finding their own way. Because if you tell them, if you preach to them, but this is every generation. When we were kids, it was the same. It doesn't work, does it? And what RTD is doing with Doctor Who is lazy Doctor Who story writing and then a lecture. It's like Saturday sermon. And the trouble is the sermon will just miss people by because it's too sledgehammer. Watch Curse of Peladon. Watch one of the old Doctor Who's, and as a kid, you just absorb it. And what you're learning is whether you should be tolerant or not, whether you should respect others or not. I liked it when the Doctor would be rude, but he'd be rude with people who were obnoxious. He'd be rude with people who were evil, and he'd be rude with people who were, funny enough, pompous. So when RTD says that the classic Doctors were pompous, I always thought he punctured pomposity. Maybe John Pertwee's Doctor not all the time with some of the establishment, but the Tom Baker Doctor, I mean, I'm thinking of the Chris Boucher's script in The Robots of Death. That argument, you know, when they still thought there were stowaways and, you know, who the hell are you, and we've had murders. I don't remember the name of the character. He had the Cockney voice, and he took on the Doctor. And the Doctor, with his language, I say I'm an English teacher. His language was just laser sharp, and he nailed him grammatically. Now, as a kid, I loved that. The Doctor was clever. He didn't have all the money. He didn't necessarily have all the gadgets. He just had a wit. He had a brain, and he could think us through a situation. And that's why it was a nice quintessential British program as well. It wasn't saying be brash and have money. It was just saying be savvy, be resilient, think yourself out of a scrape. I think I had so many great messages to it that weren't what's in it now. They forget the Doctor is not human and is best as an outsider. That's why outsiders like me as a kid gravitated to him. Yeah, Doug, you are right. And for some reason, we all have to be in the tent now, not out of the tent. And remember, the danger of all this is, may I make a few kind of really big points? Ken Kesey, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That story was about the dangers of nonconformity in 1950s, 60s America. The danger, you had McCarthyism and everything. You had the danger of being a nonconformist because Randall McMurphy, well played in the movie, I've forgotten his name, Jack Nicholson. Randall McMurphy was an outsider. And as you know, he was just a small-time criminal, but he thought, I'll go and hide in an asylum for a while. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was an absolute beautiful, clever, complex critique of the American system and how it punishes nonconformity. And now we've got a culture with Generation Z and RTD and the media with the DEI and all the rest of it that are saying you have to conform or you are really out of it. So where's the progress? Because these are all called progressives. So in their story writing, in their productions, they are saying you have to fit into our model or you're out. You're cancelled. You don't exist. You're a nothing. Doctor Who fans, if you didn't spot that that was an all-white cast, Doctor Who fans, if you don't like a black doctor, nobody said that. We've criticised his characterisation. Doctor Who fans, if you have a problem, you're not our sort, you're a non-conformist, get out. And as you are all saying, including Doug Sims, Doctor Who was a non-conformist. Doctor Who was a pariah. Doctor Who was an outsider. And now the people running Doctor Who are saying outsiders are bad. Outsiders should be blocked and cancelled and abused. And they say they understand Doctor Who. They're just not clever enough to articulate the argument. They're just not. Connor Medlin, it makes sense how he could be the one who waits as he was left in limbo at the end of... No, I agree, Connor. I agree. I also think Mrs. Flood could be the one who waits. I also think that woman who was Ruby Sunday waiting all... the strange, vicious... Trouble is, the one who waits could be a few people. I'm the one who waits, Connor, for a good episode. Divine and Dragon. Well, it appears to me that the show is beyond repair. Mind you, sometimes on BBC they have the repair shop. So can we hand the Doctor Who franchise, all broken and buckled, into the repair shop? They'll do an episode on it and lovingly restore it. And then I wonder what it'll look like then. But it won't look like now. I think if Disney wants more Bluey, yes, see, this is it. They may negotiate a way to finance Doctor Who, but not a full series. We've only got 8 episodes anyway. I mean, honestly. You see, I thought the argument was, I didn't like the argument, but the less episodes, the higher the quality of production. Now, that would include the writing quality. Space Babies? Devil's Cord? Boom? I mean, I'm not knocking poor Stephen Moffat, but, Stephen Moffat said they were thinking, what have they never done in Doctor Who before? So in the end, the thought of Harry Sullivan and Genesis of the Daleks. So really, all they've got left now is to say, that moment in good old classic Who that was well written? They didn't spend a lot of time on that one moment because they were trying to do a good 4 or 6 part episode adventure. They were trying to Brighton adventure, and they didn't spend much time on that. We, as astute, complex writers, very cerebral, we're going to focus on that one moment and call it an episode. It's not an adventure, though, and it's not a story. It's something else. Anthony Parkinson. Disney exists to burn money these days. Doctor Who fits perfectly in their portfolio. So it's been used. It's been used and abused by people who I don't know if even love it anymore. Action Popcast, hiya. I'd love to chat on the stream with you about Doctor Who sometime. Right, well, I haven't got the blah, blah, blah. I'm on Gmail, Sphere. I'm on X, even though they think I'm not kind, showing a coffin of Doctor Who, the program. You can find us. Look at the description of this program and you'll see how you can contact me, because I am looking for people who can argue the toss about Doctor Who. Daniel's Hot Topics. A lot of my friends hate the yeah, I love it. Well, this is interesting because it brought back all the Doctors and they can pop up any time in the future. I would love to see Peter Davison at Unit with David Tennant. Daniel's Hot Topics. I see your argument. May I just say one other thing, though, why I didn't like that idea that was said on Unleashed? The reason was, yeah, I mean, I like Peter Davison. I like Sylvester McCoy. I like Colin Baker. I spent a day with Colin Baker in Blackpool last year at a convention looking after his money. And lovely, you know, they're lovely people. But you can't bring back William Hartnell. I know David Bradley. No, William Hartnell. You can't bring back Patrick Troughton. You can't bring back John Pertwee. Tom Bacon now, obviously, bless him. You know, let him have a nice retirement. So the point is, it's not equal. It's not fair. So this idea that all the Doctors can come back, well, actually, they can't. Of course they can't. So it's going to end up being the same ones again. Which, although it's lovely the first time, we have a problem with David Tennant being overused in Doctor Who. He was good, but please, I want no more David Tennant. So, you know, be careful what you wish for, really. Isn't it better left to the imagination? Isn't it better left? You know, the Tom Baker coming back as the curator was a clever moment because it was just 2 minutes or so. I think bringing them back for longer might be dangerous. I love them doing their comedy one, though. They should have done another 5-ish Doctors rebooted. I love that. If I can't see some of your names, it's my eyesight now, and I really don't want to be putting them on. Conclude. I'm a regular podcaster, but I can't say anything positive about this current era, so I guess I'm out. Don't leave. Don't leave. Why should we all be leaving? We stick together. We'll get there. Mike Disney, hello again. Daniel's Hot Topics. We've had previous Doctors return without any bi-generations. That's true. It can be done in other ways. The bi-generation, why did he... I'm hoping... Why? That there's something... There's a reason he did that for later on. He says David Tennant's not coming back. I want to believe him, and I don't think he is. But there is still another TARDIS in somebody's garden. Is that the memory TARDIS now? I mean, I'm just trying to work out. It does join up somehow. I'm still desperately hoping that the sledgehammer that used the toy maker magic to make a second TARDIS, which I found one of the most offensive things ever. It cheapened Doctor Who beyond anything. I'm hoping that there's a plot device there and that this whole season and the one that's coming, because the TARDIS is growing a lot, and if in the Radio Times article they talk about this. In fact, the truth is, if you allow me, I will put it back up, because I don't think I can. Let's have a look. Give me a moment, because he said we're good. He said 99% of the plot holes and threads are going to be sorted by these last 2 episodes. He said that the Susan Twist thing is going to be resolved. He's going to resolve why the TARDIS has been grown in. And the third one is, Ruby Sunday's mother. So he said 99% of this is going to be resolved with a nice kind of shock into season 2. Fair enough, you can do that. You know, Tegan being left behind in time flight is it's been done before. So the TARDIS grown in. Is this the sledgehammer making a fantasy TARDIS? We go into a fantasy parallel, like an e-space for fantasy. I'm not buying this, by the way, but I'm just trying to justify a weak writer. And And therefore, when all this is sorted out, we then go back to normal because there is another TARDIS just sat there in Donna Noble's garden, which would be a problem to weed around. I mean, there's going to be a plonk of grass that's ruined. Very bad. Action Popcast. This series is so far from what I know Doctor Who to be. I'm completely lost for the first time in 35 years of being a fan. I think I've been a fan for 52 years. I'm doing a program about Longleat, by the way. I haven't put it together yet. So any of you on the thread who were at Longleat 1983, please write to me. We can have a nice nostalgic piece about that. But I know. It just isn't an adventure anymore. I don't see where the fun is. I just don't. Terrified Monk. Not enough time to develop characters. 8 episodes was not enough to support this type of season. I agree. 8 episodes is fine if you had one thread. I mean, if your mission is to introduce the new Doctor properly, go for that. But Susan Twist, Mrs. Flood, Ruby Sunday's mother, the great thing that's coming at the end, the one who waits, the boss and all that stuff. Too many... He better resolve it well, is all I'm saying. I know he will resolve it because it'll have an ending. But is it well explained? Or is it just a mess? And if it's just a daft reboot... Remember, RTD's got form on this. I was one of those, I didn't really like the TARDIS towing the Earth back across the universe to its rightful orbit. That was just taking it too far. Nice bit of music, but that was it. I didn't like when you saw 1 million Daleks at the end of season 1 and you thought, oh, this is tasty. Because it was the first time, wasn't it? Was that resolved well? Rose took the whole TARDIS inside her and they had a kiss and then they all blew up. Gosh. He is very clever. It's beyond me. I would never dare approach a BBC executive with that as a resolution to a script. So how does Doctor Who defeat 1 million Daleks? Well, his companion, she breathes in the time vortex. Sorry? Do you understand that? And then the Doctor has to kiss her to take all the vortex that's kind of in her lungs back. Oh, is that possible? I haven't seen the episode that does that. Yeah, it's very, very, very special. Because I've got it as a yellow vapor. It's like a smoke. It's like the Doctor vapes now. So basically, the Rose vapes the TARDIS in, the Doctor vapes the TARDIS out of her, and then he vapes it away. Yeah. Give me a script. Give me a few pounds. That's the level of it. Divine and Dragon, the sense for casting the Doctor as a woman or as black or as gay was all about casting around a gimmick. Once the gimmick is used up, there's no real story. Divine and Dragon, let's be careful. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying those who are watching who love to get, if you're going to pick a female Doctor against my better judgment, make sure you write well for them and make sure the first female Doctor is the best. That failed because it wasn't written well. If you're going to have the first Black Doctor, make sure they're a strong, heroic character, like Luther. But they haven't. They've made him weak. They've made him gay. I've got no problem with people showing their emotion. I've got no problem with people being gay. The problem is when it's the first Black Doctor, you've made him the one with extra problems than all the white doctors. I don't know if that's a good look, RTD. Libro Paradiso. Kids admire courage, strength, and resilience. I think it's universal. It's something to strive for. That's what made Tarzan, Phantom, Daredevil, Modesty Blaze, and other comics. Same with Doctor Who. And that's what I've spent my whole teaching career about. There's no go-to answer. Remember, one of the great things about being a child, especially in the 70s, is they said, you've got to learn to be bored. You've got to learn what boredom is. Because once you're bored, you have to use your imagination, your ingenuity to get yourself out of it. And so you start to build resilience. You can't say to a child who's crying, you can't say to a child who thinks the world's against them, here's a worksheet, follow these tips. Because somebody's worked out those tips by just living. You've got to live it. You've got to live behind the sofa and be scared to death on a Saturday night of this 25-minute episode. And you're on your own because your mum and dad are in the kitchen, so they don't even know what you've seen. And you're in your head for a week trying to work out, what problems were being posited there. I remember, and I never had a problem with Doctor Who. All this nightmare like, what a load of rubbish. But I did try and work out that if a kind of an army of Cybermen came around our close, how would I try and deal with that? I remember trying to work that out. And before Daleks went upstairs, I kept thinking, gosh, if a Dalek came in the house, I'd be straight up the stairs. And then what would happen? I was working it out, but there was no worksheet and I didn't need an assembly on it. And I think that's what's missing. Everybody's wanting a quick fix. Everybody wants a perfect answer. And I think if you're going to teach kids and the new generation, there's no answers. There's no working out except you do it your way. And stop giving us these easy fixes. Gosh, yeah, the thread is on fire. I assume you like me doing a saloon live, even though it's longer. You can dip in and out, I dare say. Hello, Timescales. I have this season of Doctor Who to thank for getting me to start watching streaming TV again. And you're liking this overall. If I'm getting it right, Timescales, you sound as though you're enjoying it. We're not, but you sound as though you do like this series. Archibald Lazarus, Jo Martin would have been better. Well, she was written better. She was written better, Jo Martin's Doctor. And I noticed her in Rogue. Oh, thank you, Archibald Lazarus. You agree with me? Nothing wrong with a female or black doctor, but it must be excellent and well written. Yeah, and is that too much to ask? Quality writing in a big budget production in 2024. Sometimes we didn't get quality writing for a children's program in the 1960s and 70s, but that's their defense was it was only in the children's department. Paul Bowler, personally think I'm done with New Who after this series. Going to stick with Classic Who until RTD and Gatwa are gone. Join us, obviously, tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We're talking Earth Shock, and we're talking about the creepiest locations ever visited by Doctor Who. I know Planet of Evil's been mentioned. The planet, absolutely love that. Death to the Daleks has been mentioned because, of course, those Exelons and that route, that metal route in the city, Belal, loved it. So we've got a few, if you want a bit of nostalgia, Paul, join us at 7 p.m. tomorrow for that. So I started this saloon because it was about the RTD interview in the Radio Times saying that they'd seen that the ratings weren't what they wanted. That's a very diplomatic way of saying it's been messed up. But in that very bad news item, they have basically saved the day by reaching their target audience of the under 30s, the people who don't normally watch telly. Meanwhile, this thread is red hot with people who have watched Doctor Who for years and they are mortified and they're disappointed. Divine and Dragon says, yeah, I've seen more public engagement with critical discussion of Doctor Who decline in the last year or so. I do think people are starting to get sick of even arguing about it, and I think people are starting to want to just leave it. I feel myself holding on for the last 2 episodes just to see if there's a neat finish. Yes, if Sutek comes back, he's working on that part of your Doctor Who brain. We all want to see Sutek. Well, I'm saying we all. I can't speak for you all. Look at those pyramids behind that figure. I mean, the costume looks a little bit like Hand of Fear. The horn bits, I'm not quite sure. Is that meant to be a kind of crown? Obviously, it looks like it's a female. So, some people are saying, well, if Sutek is coming back, is this us going down the gender fluid road? Is it Kronos from Time Monster? Pikeheads. Oh, it's nice. I didn't know whether I should do a live one. Do you know what? I did a live saloon today because I just there was so many bits of script I had to do that in the end I thought, look, get the script right and then just go live. And nervous as hell and all the rest of it. Divine and Dragon, I'm in my 60s. I'm 56. I'm horrified with what I've seen. Such disrespect for Hartnell, Troughton, Pertwee Baker and all. It breaks my heart to see such a legacy tarnished. Divine and Dragon, were you happy with seeing in Rogue all the old Doctors? They didn't even look like the old Doctors, some of them did. They looked as though they were Madame Tussauds. I also... Oh, I don't know. When they blurred the chronology, the timeline, and you had the fugitive Doctor saying next to Chris Eccleston, and you had Jodie Whittaker next to William Hartnell. Is this deliberately to blur the lines so that none of us, not we fans, can be accused of arguing who the original Doctor is? Yes, timescales. I'm stunned. I did wonder. You know, I do a 20 or 30-minute saloon. I couldn't last week. I was ill. But yeah, it seems that people have turned up. Hello, that's good. Please, on our Sunday stream, we'll do 2 Sunday streams, one at midday on Sunday, reaction to the episode, and then we'll do the big review on the night. But the one at midday really kicked off. Wouldn't surprise me, says Elizabeth Knightsbridge. Wouldn't surprise me if RTD was in discussions with Paula Venables to be the next Doctor. Anything goes these days. I'm assuming from that would not please you. Divine and Dragon, who's responding to what I said, I think the rogue images were designed to muddy the order of the Doctors, including Richard E. Grant. The Scream of the Shalka cartoon. That doesn't fit in with my chronology at all. Unless he is the Great Intelligence, that would save it. If he's actually not the Doctor, and somebody said, you saw Richard E. Grant, but whether he's the Doctor in that timeline or whether he's actually been planted in there. Remember, why is the TARDIS groaning? Well, why are we groaning? Maybe the TARDIS agrees with us. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this thread. Please, if you've just discovered us, it is very possible. We're a new channel still, really. Please subscribe. Go on. You'd make my day, you know. Target 600. I can't believe I'm saying that number. But there you go. Look at that beautiful picture of the spiders. One of my favourites. But if it isn't one of your favourites, what about the Dalek Supreme coming out of that kettle? I loved that story. Yeah, I could watch that again straight after this stream. I really could. So remember, we've been doing midweek specials, sometimes on a Friday. That's why I quickly have to change the title. But basically, Wednesday at 7 p.m. normally, we've been doing Silence in the Library. We've been doing the best part ones. We've been doing Web of Fear last week, the best master stories, and we'll be on again tomorrow night. So please join us there. Join us on Sunday, midday and 7 p.m. again. This has been obviously me cheekily saying I think Russell Davies has turned into the new Mary Whitehouse, full of all his moral arguments about why he has to be a killjoy and it can't be a great cosmic joyride, really. Cheap marketing. Hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed seeing how the saloon works. So please join us again. We're trying our best, and the people who said they want to join our panel and join us. Yes, Paul Bowler says Earthshock, one of my favorite stories. Excellent. Yes, please join tomorrow night. Anyway, see you folks. Hopefully you enjoyed the saloon, and we'll see you again.